Spoilers. Just spoilers. Oh, that time I got reincarnated as a slime, spoilers, and spoilers on the solo leveling manga. So, if you haven't read or watched either of them, I recommend you do. Solo leveling is quite good. And that I got reincarnated as slime is basically my favorite anime. So, you have been warned. Hello you lovely cups, it's the Dragon Lord here, back again with another video. Now today we are going to be talking about what if Rimuru had solo leveling. Now, for this to work, I added gates to the world, and also awakenings will not be the same as in the show, but they are kind of in it, kind of. It's like summoning, but I'll explain that all when we get there, you know, I don't want to take up your time. Now, before I continue though, the reason for awakenings not being in here, or well, being in here but different, is because monsters have awakenings in this too, kind of, which is names, and humans will just have a kind of awakening, like a summoned hero or something like that. Kind of like that, and like the summoned hero can be like, I give you power, or some kind of religious thing, but more on that when we get there, you know, it could all change. Make sure to join the Discord if you haven't already, where you can vote on my weekly what ifs and just hang out with us in general, you know, it's kind of fun. And without further ado, let's get into it. Our story starts with a 37-year-old man named Satoru Mikami. He is heading out to meet up with one of his friends. They meet up and his friend Tomura shows him this girl. As Satoru makes jokes about rumors, she gets totally flustered. This is when Tomura tells him to go easy on her. He invites Satoru to eat some yakimiku, and they are about to head over to the place. And this is when a woman screams. Tomura looks on as he sees a man is charging at them with a knife. Satoru pushes Tomura out of the way and gets stabbed by the man. The man then runs away and Satoru falls to the ground. Hey, what's going on? This heat, I can't stand it, he says while holding his stomach. Request confirmed. Acquisition of the skill heat resistance acquired, a voice would say. Is this it death by stabbing? What the hell? Request confirmed. Acquisition of the skill stab resistance is successful. Continuing. Physical attack resistance acquisition successful. There's so much blood, it hurts, he says while looking at his hand. Request confirmed. Pain nullification acquired, creating a body that does not require blood. Man up, Tomura, he says to himself, but he can't really just get the gist of what's going on. He says to himself, now I'm cold. And then this weird voice starts talking again. Cold resistance acquisition successful. Attainment of both heat resistance and cold resistance has resulted in a new skill, thermal fluctuation resistance. Am I going to die? Hey, Tomura, my computer's hard drive. I need you to dump it in the bathtub and fry it. Deletion of data via electronic current has failed due to insufficient data. As an alternative, electric current resistance has been acquired. Paralyze resistance is included. Successful. Tomura goes on about how he invited Satoru to show off Miho, like a total jerk. This makes Satoru say, yeah, I know. Don't worry about it. Just promise me you'll have a happy life together. And please wipe my hard drive. I can't believe I'm gonna kick the bucket as a girlfriendless virgin. In my next life, I'm gonna go on the prowl. I'll hunt down all the ladies. Acquisition of Acquisition of unique skill predator successful. In stories, 30-year-old virgins are wizards. Seeing I'm pushing 40, that makes me some kind of sage. A few more years, and I would be a great sage. Extra skill acquired. Sage. Continuing sage will transform into unique skill. Great sage. Successful. Shut up already. Can't a guy just get some peace and quiet? He says, while his eyes closed and his hand falls. Now, Satoru would be so confused, continuously saying, "Where am I? It's so dark. I can't see." The last thing he remembers was some guy teasing him about being a great sage. This is when Satoru remembers that he got stabbed and died. Satoru, or how we shall call him from now on, Rimuru, quickly figures out that he can't move his arms or legs, and that he can't really see. He then accidentally absorbs a plant inside of his body, which gives him this weird feeling. He also figures out quite fast that he has been turned into a small, gelatinous form. This makes him kind of sad as he realizes he isn't human, and his self-image is that of a very muscular man, but he isn't. Rimuru deducts that a lot of time has passed since his rebirth, and that the slime body thing he has isn't such a bad thing because it comes with the weird perk of not needing sleep or food. He starts talking to himself as he says, "Why eat these plants, you may ask? Because I'm so freaking bored!" There's no real point to it, but it's better than doing nothing, he says. Wait, who am I talking to anyway? It doesn't matter. The real question is, where does this stuff go after I eat it? It's not like I poop. Answer: the plants are stored in the stomach of your unique skill predator. The weird voice would say again. Rimuru would be so confused by this voice as he says, "Wow, a voice? Who are you?" Answer: it's the effect of your unique skill, Great Sage. Now that your ability has been established, you will be able to react more quickly. Rimuru asks Great Sage how Predator works, and Great Sage quickly goes over how Predator works. Rimuru then analyzes the herb as he figures out that it can be used for healing potions, and that it's quite valuable. He decides to gobble up all the herbs. He lands on a rock and decides to ask Great Sage what it is, as Great Sage explains that it's Magistone ore, and that it's quite valuable. He decides to absorb it after this. After this, he goes on a spree gobbling up ores and herbs and other stuff too. He keeps going, and it's at this moment where he falls in a water lake. He can't swim and he won't float, so he decides to take in water and uses it to repel himself. He learns the skill water propulsion. He goes way too fast and ends up hitting his head against something. Rimuru would say, "I'm almost certain that there is a dent in my head, but why doesn't it hurt?" This would prompt Great Sage to explain that one of his skills, pain nullification, stops him from feeling pain. Great Sage would then calculate how much damage was taken and put it at around 10%. And then Great Sage would activate species skill self-regeneration. Rimuru would say that it's a convenient skill to have, but that he will have to be more careful. At this moment, a deeper voice would speak and scare Rimuru. The voice would say, "Can you hear me, small one?" As Rimuru would think that are they talking to me? The voice would say, "Hey, it's rude to just ignore me, you had best answer me." Rimuru would think easier said than done. "I don't have a mouth to talk with, genius." As the voice would scream, "Hey!" Rimuru would scream back, saying, "Stop shouting, Baldy." The voice would answer back with, "You dare call me Baldy? You're rather bold for a slime." As the voice would roar, scaring the life out of Rimuru, the voice would explain that he is trying to be hospitable, since it's been a while since he's had a visit, but perhaps Rimuru would have a death wish. Rimuru would panic and say that he didn't know Veldora could read his mind, or whatever, and that he doesn't have eyes or a mouth to speak with, so he's literally in the dark here. The voice decides to grant Rimuru's sight. He says there are a few conditions though. Rimuru asks the conditions, and the voice just says, "Come and visit me sometime, and don't fear me." when you can see. When Rimuru accepts the conditions, and the voice starts explaining magic sense. Rimuru would try to sense the magical particles around him, as Great Sage would say extra skill, magic sense acquired. Rim would question extra skill, and Great Sage would simply say skill stronger than that of normal skills. Rimuru would activate magic sense and be baffled by everything around him. He decides to hop towards the lake and see if he really is a slime. He would be kind of bummed out, but at the same time not mind this when the voice asks how it went, and Rimuru would say great, while hopping back, as he would see Veldora and be scared. As Veldora would make a come here movement with his finger, Rimuru would hesitantly approach him. As Veldora introduces himself as Veldora the Storm Dragon and explain that he is one of 4 true dragons in this world. As he would start laughing, which would make the cave start to shake. Rimuru would try to leave, but Veldora would stop him, asking him if he is a unique. Rimuru would explain that he's used to be human and that he got stabbed to death, as Veldora would say, "Oh, so you are an otherworlder," and that Rimuru is the first one that Veldora has met that has been reincarnated. Now Rimuru would say that there might be others from Japan and that he wants to maybe find them. This makes Veldora pout as he says, "What? What's this? You're leaving so soon?" Rimuru would decide to stay a bit longer. This makes Veldora very happy. Now Rimuru would ask how Veldora got sealed in the cave, and Veldora would tell him the story. And this makes Rimuru question the hero, as Veldora explains that she's a summon and that it's different from another worlder, and that the summon is basically a slave to the summoner, which makes Rimuru call it messed up. But of course, this prompts Veldora to say this world is survival of the fittest. Now Rimuru would switch the topic and go over how he has been stuck for 300 years. And this prompts Veldora into saying that he is so incredibly bored, and this makes Rimuru ask them, like, suggesting, like, you know, can we be friends? Wink wink. But Veldora starts laughing at this, and Rimuru would say that it was a stupid idea. Now Veldora would turn all tsundere and be like, "Well, I didn't want to," which prompts Rimuru to say, well then, from this day on, we are friends, unless you want to hang out here all alone again. Veldora would quickly say that he will be Rimuru's friend, and that he will make an exception this time, as Rimuru would extend his slime body, making a kind of arm, and say, "Put her there, pal," as they basically fist bump. Rimuru would feel bad for Veldora for being stuck for 300 years, and Veldora says that he probably only has 100 years left before his magic runs out, as he says that his magic jewels were leaking out of him. This would make Rimuru upset, as he would ask what will happen when he runs out of juice. And this makes Veldora say nothing, and that he will probably just die. This makes Rimuru even more upset and makes him say that there should be some way that they can free him. Rimuru tries to use Predator on the unlimited imprisonment, but it fails. Veldora would say that it's useless, but Rimuru would ignore him and ask Great Sage what they could do, which would make Veldora say it's rude to just ignore me and talk to your own skill, which would make Rimuru say jealous much. Great Sage would tell Rimuru that what they can do, and Rimuru tells Veldora that they have to analyze it from both sides. Veldora tells Rimuru that he can't use his skills since the hero sealed them away. Now Rimuru tells Veldora to just give him the data and he will analyze it, but Veldora says that it could take quite a while and he doesn't want to keep Rimuru. Rimuru replies with that he wants to find people from his world, and this makes of course Veldora sad. But Rimuru says that they could try one more thing, and Veldora asks what. This makes Rimuru say, "How about you get in my stomach?" Both of them would be silent for a moment, and Rimuru would quickly explain how it would work. And Veldora just starts laughing, and he says that it sounds like fun, and he agrees to it. They have a laugh together, and Rimuru was about to start, but Veldora tells him to wait a moment, and tells him that they should give each other a name, like family, and that it will mark them as equals. As Rimuru thinks of a cool name to give Veldora, he decides on Tempest. Veldora absolutely loves it, and as he gives a huge roar. Now Veldora would give the name Rimuru to Rimuru, as Rimuru would become Rimuru. Rimuruception, by the way. And this is when Rimuru Tempest becomes Rimuru Tempest, and Veldora would become Veldora Tempest. Rimuru would ask Veldora if he's ready to be absorbed, but Veldora would warn Rimuru. He would say in this world there are things called gates. The humans use the parts of the monsters in gates to advance their technologies. Be careful if you ever go into one. Rimuru would say alright and would use Predator and absorb Veldora. Great Sage would ask, would you like to use Analyze on the unique skill Unlimited Imprisonment, and Rimuru would say yes, Analyze away. About 2 weeks and 5 days would pass as Rimuru would actually have absorbed every ore or plants he came across, as well as some monsters. He would gain a lot of skills. Anyway, Rimuru would stumble upon a blue portal and would be interested in it as he decides to enter it. Upon entering it, Rimuru would get attacked by monsters. He would actually quite easily take care of them. Like, they stood no chance. About 20 minutes pass and all the monsters would be wiped out. This is when Rimuru notices a little core on the ground as he asks Great Sage what it is, and she says, E-Class Magic Core. An item mercenaries sell for gold and that humans use for technology development. Rimuru then asks if it is of any use to a monster, and this is when Great Sage says use of the skill Predator will take these cores in and convert them to magic power. Rimuru would say that it seems pretty OP, but he decides to go with it. As he uses Predator on the E-Class core, he feels a shift, and he feels that he gained power, not a lot, but he still gained power. Rimuru decides that this is good, and he decides to use Predator on all of the corpses and magic cores, absorbing D-Class and C-Class cores. Along the way, he decides that he wants to leave the dungeon, but this is when he spots an opening, as he thinks, sweet, as he goes through it, and this is when he finds a massive door. He opens it. And there are a bunch of stone statues inside. He decides to go in and sees this angel holding a text. As he asks Great Sage what it says, she says, translation of old runic texts, commencing. Parthenon's Temple, Commandments. First, worship the Lord. Second, praise the Lord. And third, prove your faith. This would confuse Rimuru, as he would look around. He would see that the big statue is looking at him now, as Rimuru wants to leave. Great Sage warns him to dodge upwards. As he does, he sees that the massive statue fired a laser beam at him. He quickly figures out that the dungeon has rules he must follow and decides to go along with it. As he bows down in his slime form, the statue would smile and stand up, as it would start advancing towards Rimuru. Rimuru would be confused on praise the Lord part, and Great Sage would tell him to go to a statue with an instrument. Rimuru does, and the massive statue stops moving. The statue then makes a hand movement as an altar pops out. Rimuru decides to get on the altar. Now Rimuru is looking at the big statue, but this is when he notices that the other statues are coming towards him. He sees that when he looks at one of them, they stop, so he quickly deducts that they are like Peanut, the SCP. He decides to try and use Magic Sense to look in a 360-degree rotation, and it actually works. As all the statues stop, this is when Great Sage says, extra skill, 360-degree view, unlocked. Rimuru sees the blue flame, and he deducts that it's like a timer. The blue flame eventually disappears, and this is when a menu prompts opening saying, completed quest, Courage of the Weak, do you accept? Rimuru gets confused, and this is when another menu prompts saying, if you don't accept, will lead to death. Rimuru decides to accept this, and that's when a huge flash happens, and he passes out. He wakes up the next day, and this is when he sees a window popped up saying, welcome player. as he sees that he got mail. He opens the mail and sees that he got rewards for completing Quest Courage of the Week. He accepts them, and this is when Great Sage says, "You have acquired new abilities. Unknown origin." Rimuru would question this, but Great Sage would just say that unknown origin means that she doesn't know where he got the skills from or what they are. Now Rimuru would explore through this menu a bit as he sees his stats, which are already quite high. His stats goes as follows: Strength at 750, Agility at 250, Sense at 1500, and this is because of multiple of his skills stacking up on it. Continuing, Vitality is at 1250, and Intelligence is at 2000. Now Rimuru would look through his skills because he would see that his skills would have transferred to this menu, like Predator, and all of that he sees that they give him huge boosts in power. He decides to not go over it too much, but he does see that he has an inventory. As he opens it, he sees that his skills would have transferred, that a bunch of materials, but he sees that it's not nearly as much as he had absorbed. But this is when he realizes that the system only took the items from the dungeon, and that that it didn't take the items that he had from like the magic stone ore so far. And he would also see that the magic cores would be in the inventory, but Rimuru wouldn't feel weaker than he was before, and he knows for a fact that he gets stronger when he absorbs them with Predator. Now he decides to go to the icon of the magic core, and there's a button on it that says use. He does, and after consuming one E-class core, all his stats would go up by 3, which would make Rimuru shocked. He decides to use the other 99 that he has left, and this makes all Rimuru's stats go up by 300, as he actually feels stronger. Now he would see the daily quest, but he would ignore it as he decides to leave the dungeon and go explore the cave a bit more. About a day passes and Rimuru gets teleported to the penalty zone. Now he sees that the monsters have names, but compared to Rimuru they are nothing, as their names are just white. He decides to absolutely destroy them, and when he realizes that they don't drop cores, but other items such as armor and whatnot, he quickly takes care of a lot of the centipedes and gets a lot of gold. And all of that, he even goes up by 10 levels. As he decides to just put 30 levels into strength, he has about like 10 D-class cores and 1 C-class core, but he decides to leave them for now in his inventory. He sees that he has a shop also, and decides to buy some S-rank armor, since he has an infinite money source at the moment, since the centipedes keep coming and they can drop money bags. He basically fully kits himself out and gets a full set of S-rank armor, which gives him an overall protection against everything, and he gains some trinkets and other stuff too. But he learns a few skills after absorbing the centipedes, which would also boost his power. 4 hours would then pass, and in this time, Rimuru would be teleported back to the cave. This is when he sees that he hit level 30, and he decides to put the 60 points in strength, again since it's really his only stat that isn't as good as the others. This is when he gets a notification for his penalty quest being done, and he decides to accept it as he sees that he has a choice. He chooses a random box, which ends up giving him a dungeon key, and another day would pass, and Rimuru would have actually done the daily quest quite easily actually, because he spent all day running across the cave gathering magic stone, ore and herbs, and overall monsters. He would learn a lot, and even learn that he can upgrade items using Great Sage, as he asked if he could put skills on weapons. Now he wouldn't have done that yet, but Great Sage did say yes. Anyway, he continues moving for another 3 or so days, completing the daily quests and all of that. He would never click on the stat points, and he would only have used 2 rewards so far, which were both random boxes, as he would have a key to an E rank dungeon, and 2 more trinkets that he got from the other boxes. The 2 trinkets together would grant the user hypersonic regeneration, as Rimuru would put them on, of course, Now, they would resize to fit Rimuru, but he would have them hidden from others. He decides to use the E rank dungeon key, and this is when he gets to fight against the Rikens. Now, at this point, they don't stand a chance at all, so Rimuru just destroys them quite easily, as he gains their skills after absorbing them. He also gains drops, but they aren't as of much use right now. He decides to go down these steps after defeating all the Rikens, and he meets the snake boss. He easily takes care of it, though, and his levels go up quite a few times. He ends up absorbing the snake, and would be wearing for and leaving the dungeon. I'd say a month would have passed since Rimuru met Veldora, and he finally finds the cave exit. This is when he sees 3 adventurers walk in, and he basically zooms past them, and they don't even notice him. Now, if you're wondering, that's about a week and 2 days since he got solo leveling. Now, Rimuru would be wearing 4 trinkets. 2 would give him hypersonic regen, as we know, but the other 2 would give him hypersonic mana regen. He got them out of the daily quest, and he quite likes them, but they aren't activated, and he's confused on it, but he thinks he needs to complete something before they activate. So he wears them, but they don't work yet. Now, Rimuru didn't know, but the mana regen would also regenerate his magic heals eventually. Anyway, he goes through the forest, and this is when a group of goblins would approach him. Now, keep in mind, at this point, Rimuru's stats are well over double what they were in the anime, seeing that he still had a lot of items, and he could use overall his armor and stuff like that and whatnot. You know, he's very strong. But compared to Rimuru from the story, he's probably way stronger than when Rimuru entered the forest in the anime. I'd say what Rimuru's stats were, he would probably be around triple, because when he absorbs a monster, he gains stat points in each stat, depending on how strong the monster is. And he overall gets their skills, stuff like that. But somehow, like, he gains strength way faster than anything else. But one thing he has is when how can I explain this? This is quite confusing. Like, armor and stuff, they give boosts in strength and like stuff like that. But Rimuru bought like the best armors out of the shop, which gives him like vitality, strength, all of that, you know. He doesn't use a weapon, but he has one, and I'm very hyped to share it with you, but we'll see. Now, the goblins would approach Rimuru, but they would tremble even harder than in the anime because of Rimuru's strength. Now, they ask him what his business is in the forest, as he says, as he tries to converse his thoughts using his bat skill. They all kneel down because when Rimuru spoke, he was shouting so loudly. They ask him if he could help them, and he hears them out as he follows them to their village. Now, the village elder would tell Rimuru that their god has suddenly disappeared about a month ago, and that the monsters would be more aggressive. Rimuru figures out that Veldora is their god, and that the timing fits. Now, the village elder would explain that they need protection and ask Rimuru if he can help. Now, Rimuru would say that he isn't all that powerful since he is just a slime, but the village elder says, "Surely you jest," and his son says that he is quite funny. Now, Rimuru would decide to switch magic sense's perspective to himself, and see that he is emitting quite the powerful aura. As he decides to suck it back in, Rimuru would play it off as a test and say that he is quite astounded at the village for being brave enough to speak to him. They explain everything that happened, and this is how Rimuru figures out that the son of the village elder actually died. Now, while talking, a direwolf would howl, and the villagers would panic, but Rimuru would say, "Don't worry, because I will grant you your wish. We will defeat them." Rimuru ends up healing all the injured that fought against the direwolves, and this is when he decides that they need defenses. So the goblins start building. Night would hit, and the direwolves would be at the village, and the goblins would have built a fence, and have bows, but not ordinary bows. But Rimuru would be standing quite a bit before the fence, quite in the open. Now the direwolves would rush the village at the command of the direwolf leader. Now Rimuru and the villagers would easily dispel them, and this angers the direwolf leader, who rushes Rimuru. He gets captured in Sticky Threat, and Rimuru decides to kill him by using Water Blade. He then absorbs the leader and uses the skill Menace, while also being transformed into a wolf. He uses Menace, and it's even more menacing, see what I did there, than the anime version. And the wolves still approach him, and they all bow down, saying that they yield. The next morning, Rimuru decides to pair them all up, one goblin and one direwolf each. And then he decides to give them all names. He goes through the process naming Rigurd, Gopta, and so on. And when he gets to the direwolves, he notices something new. He notices that his MP is low, but he doesn't think much of it, and names the direwolf with the star on its head Ranga. This is when Great Sage says that he will be entering a sleep mode for a day. Now, like a day and a half. Now, his daily quest would pause, just to clarify, and he would wake up to see his this young goblin lady welcome him, and he doesn't recognize her. Though that's when Rigurd walks in, and he is seriously buff, like even more than in the anime. And he even looks a bit younger than what he does in the anime. Now Ranga would come in too, after Rimuru, and Rigurd would have their talk, and like about monster evolution and all that. And Ranga would have 2 horns instead of 1. He would have done a double evolution. Now this is where I'm gonna cut it off. If you guys like this what if, make sure to hit that like button. Let's get at least 30 likes, and then I will put the what if on the weekly voting board, which if you guys don't know, join the Discord, you can vote for what ifs weekly. And if a video hits a like goal, I will put the next part on the what if board. Now some what ifs are an exception, but it depends on how much fun I have with it, because I don't want to work on a script that takes maybe hours and then be like, okay, yeah, no, I don't have fun with it, you know? I need to have fun with it. Anyway, I do recommendations, so if you guys have recommendations, I'll put them on the weekly board. If I like the recommendation, of course. And then if people vote for it, then I'll try it. Like this what if, because I wanted to do this what if since basically my channel. Like, since I got recommended to watch Solo Leveling, I wanted to do this what if, so yeah. And it got voted, so here we are. Anyway, join the Discord, link in the description. Consider subscribing, hitting that like button, comment if you have any questions. And also, I'm introducing a new character to the story in the next part. But I need a name, and it has to do with... how can I say this? It has to do with kind of black flames. So if anybody wants to give me a name in another language, maybe black flames in another language, Japanese, Spanish, who knows, you know, could be cool. So with that out of the way, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. Subscribe for more.